So talking about bird language a little bit this morning, something very, very fun to learn, and it's wonderful to know what's happening in the forest. So we have a very big forest and a lot of diversity here, and there's mountain lions. People have been seeing mountain lions the past month or so, and we have a relationship with all these animals, so we have a big animal community here at Abhayagiri, and a lot of birds, a lot of migratory birds, and birds that live here all the time also, and owls. We have owls at night. And so one of the crows have a relationship with the mountain lions, where the crows actually fly around and spot prey for the mountain lions and go and inform the mountain lions, because the crows have a vested interest in the mountain lion killing something, so then the crows can go down and get some food as well. And so they're all working together. And we have bears. Bears are opportunists, and they forage. They're like humans. They eat vegetables and meat, whatever they can get their paws on. And then we have the deer. So the deer will do an alarm call when there's a possible threat of danger of mountain lion being around. They do like a sneeze. If you hear this deer sneeze call that they do sometimes, you'll hear them running around like this kind of like sneezing they do. That's the deer alarm call. And, so there's a possibility there might be something around. Also, we have bobcats around, and they're very interesting creatures, very interesting animals. We've got rabbits, jackrabbits. So these things all live and abide in the forest. To me, the jackrabbits are quite interesting creatures. Like sometimes they sit in the road, and you drive up in one of our vehicles, either the truck or the DV or the EV, and you'll see a rabbit, this big rabbit in the middle of the road, and it'll start running up the road or down the road, whatever direction you're going. It'll run in front of you. And I used to think like, well, they're terrified, they're scared, they're running. But then I remember driving down in the EV one time, and there was this rabbit, and it started running, like not very far in front of me, like it was really close. And then I stopped, and it stopped, and it just sat there. And then when I started again, it just started running again. And so I wonder if we're like playing with us or something. So these jackrabbits, they actually don't really have a nest. They don't live in a hole or anything. They just sit out in the open. So they're following like the living out in the open Dhutanga practice, where they just sit in an open spot, and they just sit there. And they don't seem to have much that they do. They just sit there, and their nest consists of a very loosely constructed circle of twigs and leaves that is around them, and they just sit in the middle of this circle, and that's it. So it's kind of an oddity of the jackrabbits in this region. I find it's good for mindfulness just to study the forest and get in touch with the forest, because it's teaching all the time, it's talking to us all the time. But sometimes we might be walking down the trail and just like, up in our head, kind of like, I got to do this today. And then we don't notice all the magical things that are happening around us. So, and then if we're quiet and we listen, so when we're up on the platform meditating and we're quiet and we're listening, we can tell from the footfalls, what animal might be around us. We have skunks here sometimes. Skunks will come and visit us when we're meditating on the platform. Foxes. We've got all those animals here. There was one time we were meditating on the platform years ago, and there was I think they call them like pygmy skunk or like a smaller skunk. It's a different species of skunk than the normal skunk. And we look over and it was there was a skunk, but it wasn't doing a normal thing. What it was doing was it was standing on its hands. So there's this type of skunk here that stands on its hands and it can walk on its two front legs. And those are like these smaller, like pygmy skunks. They're really interesting. Or like the mountain quails, that's the one I really like. When it's like misty or foggy in the morning time and you're walking down and you hear that sound of the mountain quail, it can make the mind really peaceful, make it give like a sense of solitude. So just paying attention to all these different things, it helps us to kind of get out of ourselves. It can be quite helpful. So I'll leave that for reflection this morning.